There are 4 things that you need for a complete life organization system. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through how to set up all 4, even if you're a complete beginner. And you'll want to stay to the end to learn about the 4th piece of this system, because without that final piece, none of the other pieces are going to come together for your complete life organization system. If we haven't met before, hi, my name is Dr. Jamie. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist known as the Productivity Psychologist here on YouTube. The start of a new year is a perfect time to start or refine a personal organization system. The first thing that you'll need as part of your larger organization system is some way of handling time-based events. For most people, that's a calendar, and calendars can take multiple forms, not just the conventional paper planners or the Google type calendars that you might be familiar with if you're more used to digital planning. Sure, these are the most typical way of handling time-based events, but managing time-based events can be done in a variety of flavors. Some people prefer to look at things on a yearly basis. Some people look at time-based events in terms of individual months, while others prefer a weekly or a daily view. My recommendation for having a really solid time-based event system is to have at least 2 levels of visibility on your time-based events. More is totally welcomed, but every time you add an additional layer into your organization system, you're adding a level of complexity. So if you're a beginner, I recommend at least having a monthly view and then deciding on a weekly or daily view depending on the number of time-based events that you typically have in your schedule. Digital calendars really shine in their ability to give you multiple views of your time-based events with minimal effort. If you decide to go the digital route, I recommend Google Calendar or Notion Calendar as solid starting points. If you choose to go the paper route, my primary recommendation is the Hobonichi Techo. This is a Japanese planner readily available in English through large websites like Amazon, as well as some specialty stores like Jenny Bick Design here in the Washington, D.C. area. This video isn't sponsored, but I happen to love their store and was able to take a tour of it before business hours a few weeks ago for an upcoming video I have on how to select paper planners. If you're interested in other science-based strategies for personal organization, consider hitting that subscribe button. Once you've figured out what system you want to utilize for documenting and keeping track of your time-based events, it's time for you to move on to step 2 of your life organization system, task management. In order to have a fully organized life, it's important that you know what you need to do. This can be something as simple as a to-do list or as complicated as a full-on project management system. If you're a beginner, I have 2 recommended options. The simplest option is to keep a notebook or one running file in a notes app where you're keeping all of your but I tend to think that it's really easy for your to-do list to get out of hand. So I really encourage my clients, and I personally organize my to-do list based on a 2x2 priority matrix. This is sometimes called the Eisenhower Matrix, and this is where you rank all of your to-do lists in terms of level of importance, high importance or low importance, and urgency. So high urgency and low urgency. Since you're ranking each of your tasks on these 2 variables, and the variables could be either high or low, you end up with a 2x2 matrix that looks like this. If you choose to utilize this system, it's really easy to set up a notebook so that you're able to separate out your to-do list into these 4 quadrants. Depending on how many tasks I have, I've been known to do this every day or every week. On the left side of the page, you can write down all of your tasks. Don't worry about organizing them as you're writing them down. This is sometimes known as a brain dump because we're simply getting out all of the to-dos that are hanging out in our head. Once you have them down on paper, you can separate the right-hand side of the page into these 4 quadrants. Then sort these items by level of importance and level of urgency. I tend to think things are urgent at work if they need to be done during that week. Urgent at home means that they need to be done that day. Because of this, I tend to have 2 separate planning locations, one for home and one for work. Now, this is super easy to do digitally as well, where you start off with one file and you do your overall brain dump, and then you separate those tasks into 4 additional lists. Now, here's a bonus tip, especially for you beginners. If this 2x2 2x2 matrix seems a little bit too complicated, another way of organizing a long list is simply to label your to-dos with a 1, 2, or 3. 1 are things that you need to do first, 2 are things that you'd like to get done if you have time, 3 are things that you might not want to forget, but you don't really know when you're going to do them. They have kind of low urgency and sometimes even low importance. We're going to talk about what we do with these lists in just a little bit. But first, let's get through the third component of an organized life system. Now that we have some sort of calendar for our time-based events, and we have some sort of task management capture system for our tasks, we'll need a third component. And that's our references. Sometimes I get information that I am not going to utilize at the moment, but I think I might need to utilize in the future, or I might like to refer to it at some sort of later date. And that's also an essential part of your total life organization system, because it's not enough just to be where you say you're going to be for time-based events. And for you to actually do what you need to do. For most people, being organized also entails being able to pull up things like account numbers, important paperwork, or maybe even holding on to some sentimental items. Going into 2025, I still receive paper-based items as well as a lot of digital inputs or digital information. So unlike your calendar system and your task management system, it's important for you to have at least 2 reference strategies, 1 digital and 1 paper-based. Digital systems could be as easy as setting up a reference folder within your email and maintaining a reference folder on your desktop. Since digital items only take up digital memory, it's relatively easy to store up digital-based reference material. The trick here is being able to label things so that you can easily search and find them. I follow this general rule of thumb for saving digital-based reference material. The higher the likelihood that I'm going to need to search and find the reference material, the more time I'm going to take to properly label that reference. If I'm less likely or unlikely to need the reference material at any point in the near future, I get a little lax with my naming convention, but I try at the very least to use an 8-digit code at the beginning of each file, identifying the date that I've labeled that digital reference. Now, paper files really get under my skin because I don't understand why we still have so much paper. If at all possible, I encourage you to make digital copies of all paper reference material so that you can properly sort it within your digital reference area. But if you absolutely need to maintain a physical hard copy of a document, it's important to have at least 1 filing cabinet where you can keep these important documents. I have 2 storage areas. One is a fireproof safe where I keep things like our birth certificate, my marriage certificate, and our passports. I also have 1 plastic tote where I keep additional pieces of information that are nice to have, might be fairly difficult for me to look up, or have some sort of sentimental value, things like my son's artwork. If you're interested in learning more about my filing system, I did an entire video of sorting through 1 year's worth of mail that I had stocked up over 2024, and I'll leave that video linked up above. Now for the final piece of the puzzle. If you have your calendar for time-based events, some sort of task management system, and reference material, you still don't have a full life organization system, which is why it's important for you to think through the 4th part of your life organization system, and that's the system itself. A complete life organization system allows you to move things across all parts of your system. There needs to be a way for items to get into your system and then move through the parts of the system with ease. If you don't have a system yet, there's no need to worry. I'm going to show you how I use this Notion template to work through my digital life organization system. And I'm going to talk you through how you can do this if you're choosing the analog route. I'm going to walk you through how I will handle 3 common occurrences in my household. 1, an invitation to someone's wedding. 2, an appointment for parent-teacher conferences for my son. And lastly, a letter from my homeowners association informing me that we have a new president. I don't care. I have HOA issues. All right, let's start with my fake invitation to my friend's wedding. If I receive that invitation in a paper format, I am going to first take a moment and become aware that this situation requires me to activate my life organization system. For a lot of clients that I work with, they're just going through life, ignoring some of their inputs. So they will read this invitation and put it down and walk away and go on to the next thing. Or have a conversation with their friend where they discuss meeting for coffee sometime later in the week and totally forget about it until they get a text from their friend asking if you're ever going to get together. The first step of any good life organization system is awareness that you need to activate your life organization system. There is an input that requires you to do some action so that you don't lose the moment into the ether. Once you master this, you are 50% of the way toward a more organized life. And it's not a coincidence that self-awareness is part of the goal of many therapies. All right, I have the invitation and I acknowledge that I need to do something with that invitation. Now, an invitation to a wedding is actually like a mini project, because if it was just a time-based event, we'd put that event in our calendar, mark down that April 15th, 2025, Julie is going to get married, and then you can throw away this invitation. But for many people, an invitation to a wedding is actually a mini project because you have a time-based event and you also have some tasks. Those tasks can be getting a wedding gift, booking a hotel if you're going to be traveling out to the wedding, trying on your formal dress, or going shopping for clothes to attend the wedding. So since a wedding invitation actually has multiple steps or multiple subtasks, it is a mini project. So I'm going to write down the date and time of this wedding in my calendar, and I'm also going to put purchase a gift in my task management system. If at all possible, you want to minimize the amount of time that you have to refer back to this item. So when I write down a note for myself to go shopping for their wedding gift, I also write down any information related to purchasing that gift, like if I have an idea for that gift or if they're registered at a particular place. Finally, you may want to refer back to this wedding invitation. So I tend to take a picture of the invitation and then throw out the physical piece of paper, and I'm going to file away that photo utilizing the 4-digit date and some sort of label like Julie's wedding. Alternatively, some people keep these wedding invitations as keepsakes, but I only want to store papers that are absolutely necessary. So unless it's an invitation to my nephew's first birthday party, I am not going to be keeping any of these fancy, costly invitations. Sorry, Julie. All right, that was the most complicated thing that we're going to tackle. If I get this piece of paper from my child's school letting me know that parent-teacher conferences are next Thursday, I'm going to open up my calendar and write down the date and time as well as any relevant information. I might also take a picture of this paper if I want to refer to it later, or if there's any important information that I need to know when I attend the parent-teacher conference. I prefer using something like a Notion calendar where I can actually put things like photographs into the actual calendar entry. That's also super helpful when you're doing time-based events while traveling. You might need things like a reference number or a link to Google Maps. Now my HOA decided to get really fancy and sent out this blue paper to let me know that Rob was elected HOA president. Do I care that Rob is HOA president? Does this impact my life at all at this moment? No, it does not. But might Rob cause me some problems or issues when I need to paint my fence? Yes, he might. Therefore, I want to know who Rob is and how I can contact him. So I want to keep this information, not necessarily this piece of paper, as some sort of reference document. I can quickly snap a picture of it and then file that away using those first 8 digits to document the date that I received this reference item, and I'll want to label it something like HOA President 2025. Those were examples of how to utilize the system. Now, inputs don't only come in paper form. They often come up in conversations. For me, they happen most frequently when I'm talking with my husband. He might say we have to call a plumber. So that means that I have 2 tasks on my list. I happen to be the administrative officer of this household. So I'm going to open up my task management system and put in 2 tasks. First, get the name of a plumber. Secondly, call the plumber. If I'm using a paper-based system, I'm going to separate those 2 tasks. One of them is going to be high importance, high urgency. That's going to be find the number for the plumber, because I need to do that before I can schedule with the plumber. And schedule with the plumber is going to be a priority 2 or a high importance, low urgency, because I can't really get to that until I've identified a plumber and obtained the phone number. Going full analog is going to take a little bit more effort. So if you're open to a potential digital system, I've created a Notion template complete with instructions and a digital reference space that you can use to launch your life organization system for 2025. The link to that Notion template is down below and it is totally free. Let's hop over to my desktop and I'll show you how I use this Notion template to totally organize my life. All right, this is what my dashboard looks like. Not to worry, if this isn't your aesthetic, you can easily change this cover or this icon. But I'm here to show you the system. So here's the system. We want to start with putting everything into your inbox. So right here in new inbox, I am going to click on this new page and I'm going to put in Judy's wedding. I'm going to put in call the plumber. I'm also going to put in Rob is the new HOA, and I'll be putting in parent teacher conference. So I've put in all my tasks. So we have a clear inbox and just the 4 things that have come into my life this past week. So let's start with a parent-teacher conference because that's going to be the easiest thing to do. So I'm going to click into this page and I'm going to go here to due date. Now I just want to note that we have due date and due date, D-U-E date, and that's because sometimes you're going to want to do something a few days before it's actually due. So the date that I'm actually going to be doing it, the parent-teacher conference, is December 13th. So once I click that, it's gonna come up here in my calendar. So we'll see parent-teacher conference and it's now removed from my inbox. Next is this news that Rob is the new HOA president. So I'm going to click into that and I'm coming here to tags and I'm gonna move this from my inbox into reference. Now you'll see that there are different labels that we can use for anything in the inbox. So I'm gonna move that over to reference. And once I close that up, you'll see that Rob, being the new HOA president, is no longer in my inbox, but it is down here in my references. I've decided to use a little toggle here to hide the references because your reference list could get pretty long. So I'm gonna hit that down toggle and here we see that Rob is the new HOA president. One of the things that I love about using Notion is that you can open up that page and write anything you want here. So I could write was elected on the 1st of November 2024, will serve 1 year. Any kind of additional information that I want to put in this reference item or really in any item is one of the reasons why I really love Notion. It really allows you to add a rich level of context to anything. The other thing I really like is that you can add a picture. So if I wanted to actually put in the picture of that letter that I received from the HOA, I could also put it here within this page in my reference section. So I'm gonna close that out. Now, next up, working my way from the bottom up for some reason, is call the plumber. Now, I know that call the plumber is actually 2 tasks because first I have to find a plumber and get their number, and then I need to call the plumber to schedule. So I'm gonna add an additional page here, which says get plumber number and contact. Now, there are two ways that I can handle tasks. I can actually go in here and change the tags from inbox to task, and that is going to move that item over here to the task management section of the template. Or another thing that I love about Notion is that I could physically move these cards from the inbox into my task management system. So if I just scooch this over here into my task management system, you see that I have two tasks in the system: get the plumber's number and contact, and call the plumber. I can also prioritize these tasks. So let me go in here, and I'm gonna go right here to priority, and I'm gonna make get the plumber's number and contact a priority 1 item. And call the plumber is going to be a priority 4 item, because I can't really do anything until I have that number. The way that I have set up this task management portion of the template is that it reorders your tasks. So the things that are number 1 come first, and then 2 and 3 and 4 come after that. So I know that if I'm gonna go straight down the list, get the plumber's number and contact should be done first, or is more important than calling the plumber. So that is how things move from the inbox into the task management system. So for Jody's wedding, I physically got an invitation, and I do want to keep that for reference. I'm actually gonna bring the invitation into that card that I have, and I'm gonna write down the due date. So let's just make it December 27th. So there I have Judy's wedding. It's coming up right here in my scheduled events and tasks, but I also know that I have to buy Judy a present. So I'm gonna come here right to my task management system, and I'm just gonna enter a task for that. So I can directly enter things into the task section, into the reference section, or into the scheduled event section. It doesn't have to flow through the inbox, but we do want things to kind of follow through a system. So everything that's time-based goes into the calendar, or it can start in the inbox and get moved to the calendar. Tasks can also start in the inbox and move to the task list, or can be directly entered into the task management section, or a reference could be directly entered into the reference or into the inbox and then moved over into the reference section. So buy a gift at Nordstrom's. Great, now that's in my task management system. But how do I ensure that I actually get that task done? One of the strategies to ensure that you get things done is to schedule them in. So I'm going to be going to Nordstrom today to buy Judy's gift. So I'm going to click into this card, and for due date, I am going to say that I'm going to do that today and close that out. You'll see that it doesn't disappear from the task management system. Things just disappear from the inbox. But I now have a date for completing that specific task. And you'll see that buy a gift at Nordstrom for Judy has come up on that actual date. You'll also see up here, I have a little today section, and the task that I need to do today is to buy a gift at Nordstrom for Judy. So this little section right here tells you all the things that you have scheduled yourself to do on that date. Now let's say Judy's wedding was also today. I'm gonna bring that up into December 7th. Now that I've moved Judy's wedding to December 7th, if you scroll up here, you'll see that under events, we have Judy's wedding, and under tasks, we have buy a gift for Julie. Hopefully you won't be buying the gift the same day as the wedding, but this is just an example of how this today section works. If I decided that I am going to call the plumber today, I'm going to click into there, and I'm going to have a due date here of today, December 7th, and you'll see that now that has auto-populated here under the task section, and I have my 2 tasks. I have set things up to disappear when you might expect them to disappear. So if I got the number and contact for the plumber and I click this complete button, it is going to disappear from the tasks, and it's also going to disappear from the task management section. But there's no need to worry, because if you scroll all the way to the bottom here, under Master Database and you click the down arrow, you will see everything that you have ever entered into the system. So right here, get plumber number is a task and it was completed, but it still remains here in the master database. And if you need to refer back, you can always click that open and view in here. And if it was 555-1234, you got that phone number and you need to refer back to it, it is all safe and sound under that master database. Now let's do a quick review of how the whole system works together. If you want to have a complete life organization system, you want to make sure that you're putting everything in its place, starting with the inbox. The easiest thing to do is just to throw everything in the inbox and then move it to scheduled events or to your task management system or to the reference system once you've identified where it needs to go. But the easiest way to stay on top of everything is to make sure that everything starts with the inbox. When you get a little bit more advanced, you can throw things right into your task management system or right into another part of your system. But the easiest way to stay on top of it is through that inbox. It is important to regularly clear out that inbox. Some people prefer to do this weekly, some people do it daily, but you want to regularly be sorting things into either the task management system or into the scheduled events or even out to the reference system. During your review, you're going to move things that are time-based into the calendar. You're going to move tasks into your task management system. And ideally, you should schedule a date or at least a preliminary date where you think you're actually going to do that task. If you want, you could also assign a priority level, and that's going to help you determine when you're actually going to do the tasks. So it's likely that you'll want to do things that are of high importance or high urgency before you do things that are of low importance, low urgency. Or if you're using the 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3, 4 system, 1s probably need to be scheduled before 3s or 4s. Lastly, this is an opportunity to move reference items into your filing system. Remember to be judicious. Just because that piece of information has come through doesn't mean that you will necessarily need to keep it. So think about whether or not you just want to ignore the information or throw out the information, or if you really want to keep it in your reference material. Remember, the more items that you have in your reference material, the theoretically harder it is to find things within that system. So I try to be really selective in what I actually put into that system. If you're more of a checklist person, I have a daily checklist here where you can start by emptying your inbox, prioritizing your tasks, scheduling your tasks, reviewing your schedule for today. That's over here on the far left-hand side of the template, and review the tasks that are due today. At the end of the day, you could also look at your inbox again and see if there's anything that you want to schedule for tomorrow, any events that you have coming up that you might need to prepare for, or any tasks that are coming up for you on the next day. If you found this video helpful or informative in any way, I would love for you to give this video a thumbs up. It really helps increase my reach here on YouTube. This is only part of my 90-day life organization overhaul. If you're interested in checking out my other videos on things that I've been doing over the last 60 days or so, check out this playlist right here.